Hey everybody. I hope you guys could hear my mic. Welcome to this Tuesday's MakerDAO community call. I see we got yeah, 6 or 7 people in here now. So yeah, my name is David. I do community development at the Maker Foundation and have been a member of the Maker community for several years. And so I have had the pleasure of hosting this call uh, pretty much for the last year or two. Uh, and yeah, and this call kind of has evolved to cover a few things. So typically, like kind of our regular scheduled programming is the week in Maker. So I used to put together an agenda where we would cover governance updates, uh, new business development partnerships, highlights from the community, integrations, kind of like the whole gambit of what would be relevant to somebody in the Maker community. And what's really cool is in the last couple of months, a governance communications working group has kind of taken over and has started producing these really valuable reports every Monday called Maker Relays. And I have been working from those every Tuesday when I do go through kind of the week at MakerDAO. So today, oh yeah, sorry. To kind of keep within the frame, the other thing that we do with these calls is we often have really interesting guests on. For example, last week we had Brian McMichael come on and talk about the publicly modifiable ilk registry, uh, which I am sorry to say I am not sufficiently read up on that yet. But yeah, so I hope so. Today we're gonna have a guest that actually uh, him and his team were one of the winners for the Protect Privacy virtual hackathon that happened a month or two ago, I believe. Uh, and so yeah, that's what we're gonna focus on for the first half of this call, and then the second half of the call, if we have time, I'll run you guys through guys and gals through Maker Relay, and we'll get that weekly update for you guys. And so let me see if Pham is here. Uh, and if, yeah, cool, sweet. So I'm going to invite you to the screen. Should be able to join in just a second. So yeah, I'm not gonna spoil the surprise, but I will let Paul kind of introduce himself, introduce his project, give some shout outs to his really great teammates. And he's going to go through a demo and in kind of the culture of this call, feel free to hop on the chat and ask questions. I'll happily relay them for you on your behalf. Likewise, if you are interested in coming on the mic or the video, just request it in the chat. I'll send you an invite, and we could do more kind of direct communications, which I always prefer. So yeah, you're a part of the call. I want you to know that yeah, it's going to be great if you participate, and don't be afraid to ask questions because there's no such thing as stupid questions. And while Paul is coming on, I see it's accepted and connecting. While he's coming on, Brian mentioned that the new ilk registry was deployed late last week. They still need to add the adapters because of gas prices being prohibitive right now. Anyone in the community can do it. uh, is that a way for us to get somebody in the community to donate like $100 in transaction fees? Hint, hint. Yeah, love it, love it. Uh, yeah, yeah. So I know that actually Anna hosted the call last week. I heard that it went really well, and I'm really glad about that. And I think something that this group of people that regularly watches these community calls can expect in the next couple of months is slowly kind of a transition to have more and more like actual real community members of the DAO. Not saying that I'm not, but I work at the foundation, and so my utility as a community member is kind of being taken up. And there's a ton of really great people in the maker community that have kind of surfaced in the last few months, especially who are working on kind of the communication side of things. And I think this community call is a really great platform for them. And so you're going to see some of those team members come on and take turns hosting, all of that good stuff. So hey, Paul.
Hi, thanks for
Hey, what's
having
up,
me.
man? Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Uh, yeah, and um, sorry, I didn't catch your name.
I'm
You're,
David.
uh,
Yeah,
oh, you're David. We've been
yeah,
emailing. Okay, thanks
yeah.
for
We have
having me
been.
on,
Yeah,
David.
yeah.
It's nice to see you face to face. And like David said, everyone, please feel free to jump in and ask questions. I only prepared, I think, a 4-minute demo because I wasn't sure how long the slot was. But if there are
Yeah.
questions, I'm happy to say more. And I'm also new to Maker development, so I'm glad to be here and to learn from all of you. I don't know what ilk is either, and looking forward to hearing more about it. I do know about gas prices sucking, so
uh,
that's
and ilk is maker jargon for collateral. So different ilks, different collateral types. That's the basic definition.
great, and lots of
Yeah.
room for puns, I'm sure.
Oh, you have no idea. I don't know if you've been following, but the recent liquidation system update added a litter box to the cat.
Oh my god. Okay. Well, I
Well,
can't
a
wait to
litter
learn.
in a box.
Yeah, more cat puns,
So
cat videos to follow. Yeah, yeah.
before you launch into the demo, tell us a bit about yourself. So, like, what got you into crypto? What have you been a developer even before you started working on Ethereum stuff? Yeah, kind of. What was your on ramp into this whole crazy space that we're in?
Yeah. And also, like a shout out to GD and Joseph, my teammates. I think we're out of their time zone, but if they're online, uh, please say hi in the chat, and I'll be presenting your work. And I'm happy to have you. They're in Nigeria and India specifically, so they're like several hours ahead.
That's amazing.
And I met them through Gitcoin. So the my story is I started in 2013. Friends mentioned Bitcoin to me, and I was very skeptical. But then when I was I was won over hard, and so they started Bitcoin Mine. People may know them. They're called the Tuman brothers. They started a mine in a desert in eastern Washington, which has the cheapest hydro electricity in the U.S. And so almost my interest was in mining, and then later I got really excited about Ethereum, and so I started mining Ethereum with GPUs. And bubbles came and went, and then there was a stable coin, which was DAI, and was the most successful example of a DAO, which my friends and I, oh, there's GD, hey GD, and my friends and I have been talking about DAOs and their promise for a long time, and then also sort of lamenting that we couldn't really recommend crypto to grandmothers and non-technical people because it was just like not spendable, and it's hard to reason about. And so DAI was very influential and a great contribution. And so I've been following DAI ever since. I'm still a great fan of DAI. I guess like other than private voting, well, I can say I started consulting for a client for real estate management in New York City. The client is called Real Blocks, and they were interested in private trading, so how to transfer assets without revealing the price. And so Ethereum is a public blockchain. You can do that with zero knowledge proofs. And so Aztec, which I'll talk more about, and then can answer questions, is a really great protocol. They have a super optimized zero knowledge proof. It's not a general ZK snark like Starks or other protocols. And so it's much cheaper, and it's only for financial applications right now. So if we're transferring tokens and math, arithmetic on tokens, like how to calculate dividends, that sort of thing. And I'll discuss how we can turn that into a voting protocol. And I've always been interested in voting and democracy, like having more people express their preferences and contributing to better collective decisions. And I guess I'm sad in the United States right now, sort of what I see as the erosion of some democratic institutions. And that motivates me even more to what can we work on to improve this?
Yeah, same. I feel you on that sentiment. Very deeply feel you on that sentiment.
Yeah, but also like very, very excited about crypto and Ethereum and DAI. Link to the project. That would be.
I got it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thanks.
it's right here. Which
Wonderful.
actually, kudos to you and your team because, like a lot of times I look at hackathon projects and there's they kind of miss a few really great things that you guys didn't. So I really love that you guys actually put a link to your roadmap. You guys have like a public Kanban board for like the progress. It's you guys have really great documentation for a hackathon project. So I just wanted to pay that compliment to your team.
Oh, thank you. Well, I should mention that we've been working on this for probably over a year now, and it's throughout my consulting work, and so I can't take credit except that like we have been continuously trying to get better. Our Kanban could be more up to date as well, but thank you for the compliment. And we use the hackathon to make progress. For a while, I thought about private asset transfer. Well, this could be private voting, and I worked with DAO Stack, which is another DAO platform, for a while to implement private voting, but I never had the time to make progress on it until the MakerDAO prize and the Gitcoin hackathon. So, yeah. So
nice.
Thank you for that opportunity.
Yeah, we're happy to see exactly teams like yours, and yeah, we're excited. So yeah, let's launch into this demo and see let's see what you guys built.
Sure. So let's see the screen share link. I'm assuming it says share button. Nope, that's not it. There we go. Okay, can you see my screen with a Google Slides presentation?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. So as David mentioned, we are working on private voting with Aztec. And my teammates are Joseph Owanwo and GD Sumya, joining us all the way from, GD joining us from India. I think he's staying up super late for this. And then Joseph, I think, unfortunately can't be with us today, but I will be mentioning each of their contributions. And we are proud and honored to be an awardee of the MakerDAO Hackathon Prize for Gitcoin Protect Privacy Hackathon. We have a longer talk, 20 minutes, sort of explaining a little bit more about our motivations for voting and what private voting is and why you might care about it at this YouTube video. And I'll post a link to the slides in this video later on. But it's a work in progress. So even though we presented something at the hackathon, we're continuing to work on it. And we hope to release demo. And our end goal is to have a place where anyone can just go and spin up a private election. It doesn't have to be private, but it is private by default. And it could be voting on hackathon prizes. It could be electing the president of your organization. And if any federal election commissioners contact us about running the U.S. presidential election, I would take that. I would take that contract as well. But I'll mention briefly, what is private voting? Our approach with Aztec. I'll demo what we have in the web demo, and then on the command line. And then I'll go over our algorithm, how to build private voting on top of zero-knowledge asset transfer, and then some future plans. And I think this is pretty informal, so if people want to interrupt me with questions at any time, I can go on digressions and see what people are interested in. Yeah, and I can't see eye contact whenever I'm presenting. I just see my screen, so just feel free to shout out audibly if you want me to pause.
So actually, there's already one question if you want to try to answer it. So Akiva asks in the chat, can you obfuscate which address is voting?
That is a great question. And it sounds like you might be familiar a little bit with Aztec already. And all transactions on the blockchain, of course, are public, and we obfuscate the amount of a token transfer. But the address, you're right, is still there. The sender and the receiver. Well, actually, the sender, not necessarily the receiver. And if you want to obfuscate even the address of the sender, there are a few approaches. You could create a stealth address. Sorry, you could create a temporary, not temporary. You could create a address only known to you, so it's pseudonymous, to hold your asset, so no one can link it to you or your private Ethereum identity. Let's say you have an ENS registered address and you build a lot of reputation for some address. You create a second address unlinked to that. I agree that's not satisfactory for a lot of reasons. And Aztec is working on true stealth addresses, and I have not looked into that yet, but I think they may support it by now. But that's a great question, Akiva.
Yeah, thanks. That's good.
Yeah.
Today I learned.
And yeah, I will look into real stealth addresses after this. But So in a nutshell, what is private voting? Why might you care about it? So as this young baby is demonstrating to us, when you go to a polling booth, the curtain is there for a reason, or at least there are booths and sides because you want some privacy to really, you may not vote the way you really feel if you feel like people are watching. Or even if you know the outcome of the election, you may be overly influenced to vote for the winner just because everyone likes to be on the winning side. And but what we trust is that behind the curtain, the vote is being counted correctly. Even if it's not an automated way, it could be paper ballots. And so that's what we hope to do on chain. So the curtain is privacy. And right now, all of your votes, most of your votes are visible on the blockchain. People can tell who voted for what, and that may keep you from being truly honest. I don't know if that's the case for MakerDAO voting. I know there's a governance poll every week to what measures to include on the, I think it's called the executive vote. And then the executive vote actually enables these parameters, and right now everyone's votes are public. And our goal is to integrate this eventually into the MakerDAO governance dashboard and to have those votes be private. So what is kind of the workflow here? Well, the first is that just like in real elections, users register to vote, and in our Aztec approach, you are minted tokens. And just as there's an ERC20 token, which is like a plain text token, there's a zero knowledge confidential token called ERC1724. It's pretty new. Aztec is pioneering that standard. And just like only registered voters get a ballot, when you're running your election, you mint tokens, these confidential tokens, to people that you want to be able to vote. And they may lose the tokens, they may forget the tokens, but at least they have them, and so no more than those people will be able to vote in your election. So there's some amount of control. It's a permissioned network and avoids a lot of the problems of just like completely permissionless settings. And that's before the voting period begins. Then the election is open. Users submit their votes, and they do this by transferring the assets they received on chain. And there are ways you can batch them together, so you only have to submit them once, because as we all know, gas prices are expensive. For example, you could have a relay network where voters forward their ballots to each other, and they're batched, and then the last person to receive them, or anyone in between, can submit votes in a batch instead of each person spending gas to submit their own vote. And the contract here will make sure that the vote happens before some on-chain deadline, and then it will count the votes. And there is one recipient. Each candidate for an office has two recipients, and they can receive yes votes and no votes. And maybe you can see where I'm going with this, but the amount that's obfuscated in these transfers is 0 or 1, or in our case, it's we can make a special yes value and a no value, because 0 and 1 are actually pretty easy to could be guessed by some simple cryptanalytic attacks. But the yes votes are counted, the no votes are counted, and then they're compared to each other. And the one with the greatest number of yes votes wins the election. And the amounts are kept secret, so even the recipient of the vote, like Donald Trump or Joe Biden or Vitalik Buterin, will not know who voted for them. But we all trust that verifiably the votes are counted and came from someone who did vote yes and vote no.
Yeah,
so I know
that's a wonderful explanation. Thanks.
Thanks. Yeah, I know it's pretty abstract, but I'll go over our architecture, and then what am I demoing for you? What am I going to demo for you next? And so the idea is to make it as client-based as possible. So here, each voter runs the client in their own browser and uses browser local storage. Local storage is the best we have now. In the future, I hope to have like better kinds of storage. We can call it private storage, secure storage, that's backed up. But local storage is good enough for now. And the idea is that once the static site is loaded into your browser, you or the client on your behalf is responsible for negotiating everything. So when you communicate with other voters, you use this private chat server, and I'll show the chat server next. And when you're ready to submit your vote on the blockchain, you communicate to the blockchain directly. You're not sending your secrets to a server, a centralized server that is going to submit votes on your behalf. And so all of your private data, including what you voted for, your true vote, that's all managed on you and your browser. So only you know it. And the centralized servers here, the static site is simply static HTML and resources, and has no state, cannot be breached, knows nothing, is only meant to be a trusted source of source code. And the chat server here coordinates messages between voters. And as I mentioned here, voters can forward their votes to each other so that they're submitted in batch, or can forward votes to a bot or an election commissioner of some kind. And whoever runs the chat server cannot read these messages if they're meant to be encrypted, end-to-end encrypted. And they can even be federated. So if one of these chat servers goes down, the remaining chat servers will continue forwarding routing messages to each other.
So this is like a system, something like Scuttlebutt?
Yeah, we were inspired by Scuttlebutt a lot. Big fan of Scuttlebutt from that community. And yeah, that's a great comparison.
Nice. Okay.
So for the web demo, and everyone's feel free to load this URL either now or after the demo is over. So unfortunately, there's like one part which our Let's Encrypt certificates expired a few days ago, and I didn't renew them in time for this demo. So unfortunately, it's not going to work as well as it did in the previous demo, but I can describe to you what it is, how it would work, and then also showcase this work here. So this beautiful design was designed and implemented by Joseph, who is our React wizard. And as you can see, it's intended for asset transfer. So the original inspiration for Democracy Wallet, and we call it Democracy because we always had it in our mind to do something with voting, is to have steps. And right now, the focus of the user is that the wallet is being created in the browser in local storage. And when it's finished, this first step here, step one, would say choose a token. And there are plain text tokens down here, but there are also zero knowledge ERC 1724 tokens up here. And these would be minted to you by the election commissioner. When you're ready to vote, you would select, let's say 1 or 0 out of the amount that you want to spend, and move on to the second column. And this column here would have a list of recipients, and using private chat, each user would sort of broadcast that who they are. And before, you would have a manual process of exchanging Ethereum addresses and verifying that this person is who you think they are. But in this case, because all the transfers are encrypted, like all the amounts are private, you don't have to worry about leaking that information so much. And then in addition, there's another piece of information called the Aztec public key, which lets you sign these proofs, these zero knowledge notes for spending. And here in this, we'll have a live updating list. You don't have to manually coordinate, synchronize that information. You just select the person you want to send it to. So let's say you want to vote for Vitalik, because he definitely needs more tokens. So you click him, and then it would send to the blockchain, and then it would highlight this third column here, and you can see a history of your transactions that succeed or fail. And these are the recipients. They have avatars. You can load them, open the transaction on Etherscan. Transactions uploaded to the chain or received from the chain are these up and down arrows respectively. And then if the transaction fails, it says X, and then you can retry it. And so the React interface is very beautiful and slick. And once we get the Let's Encrypt certificates renewed, we'll see a header up here showing what the auto-created address for you is, and a name for your avatar, which you can change. And then you can actually go through this example yourself.
So, a couple of questions.
Sure.
I will ask Akiva's first, and then I have another one of my own. So Akiva asks, is the process of wrapping your MKR into an ERC 724 version of MKR public or private?
That is a good question. It is public. So people can tell that you have wrapped up, let's say, one MKR into an ERC 1724. And so there is some correlation. And I think what Akiva is getting at is that could you correlate someone wrapping a token and then the spending of this token, everyone can maybe pretty much guess that the amount is at least no greater than the amount that you wrapped previously. And that part is true. So, I mean, there are ways to mitigate it. Also, you could, for example, when you buy Maker, you could buy it pre-wrapped from someone, and there are decoy notes. So those of you who are familiar with Bitcoin know that there are unspent transaction outputs. So unlike Ethereum, which is account-based, there are these UTXOs which represent spendable but unspent amounts, and these ZK notes in Aztec are the same way. And what you can do when you mint is mint these decoy notes, which actually have zero value but are indistinguishable from non-zero values, for example. And so when you're minting or you're doing any kind of transfer, you're always encouraged to generate sort of a bunch of decoy zero notes and
that's fascinating.
Pass them along. Yeah, it's like kind of a smoke screen. It's not the best that we can do, but it is, it's like mixers. It's pretty good.
Yeah. So the other question I had was, so this app generates like a brand new address for you when you access it. What if I'm holding MKR on like my own personal like legacy address for some time? Do I what is the process for the user, or like what do you envision the process for the user to be? Is it that I wrap the MKR using my address and it like sends the wrap token to this new address? Kind of, yeah, what's the connection between what's the possible connection between this new generated address and an address that I've already been holding MKR on? And then likewise, kind of a complementary question to that is, can I use my regular address that already has MKR tokens instead of a newly generated address?
Yes, those are all great questions, and it's amusing that you said legacy address, or like vintage address, as if the pre-zero knowledge address is outdated or going to be no longer used, which is not the case. You want people to keep using what addresses they are using, and then augment on top of them. So even though we've implemented our own wallet inside the browser, if there is a Web3 provider like MetaMask or whatever your favorite wallet is, we would like to piggyback on that as much as possible. It's just that those wallets don't have dApp specific secrets. They store your address and maybe what tokens you have, but they don't have no API access for storing additional secrets. And that's what we would add right now. And those additional secrets do need to be backed up, and that is part of a larger project. How do you have sort of these enclaves online that back up your secrets for you in a secure way? That is not the same as like uploading them to Dropbox or remembering an additional password, that sort of thing. But as for another great question that you asked is like, what is the process? So I guess to be clear, when you vote and you transfer these zero knowledge tokens, you wouldn't actually be transferring MKR because it's your MKR. They're worth like $600 right now. So it's not like you're going to be transferring them away just to vote. But when you lock in the contract, that in itself could trigger the minting of voting tokens. And these are like more ephemeral, like once per election tokens. And it sounds like a lot right now, like, minting a new token for every election, because, there's like 20 ballot measures every week and 52 weeks in a year. And so you can imagine, like, it sounds like a lot to mint hundreds and hundreds of zero knowledge tokens. But that's why we have a framework that's repeatable, because it's shielded from you. Like, you actually won't have to worry about or deal with any of these zero knowledge tokens that are being transmitted. They would be transmitted for you, and they would be ephemeral. Like, you may not vote in most elections. In fact, you probably won't. And so those tokens just like will not be valid or acceptable anywhere else. And the election in which they had meaning would be over at some point. And yeah, so as much as possible, you would be shielded from the user. I can talk about what the client would have to do on the back end, which is that when you lock up your token into the voting contract, whenever a new weekly governance poll is started, it would be, let's say MakerDAO's responsibility, or whoever ran the election, in consultation with us, and sort of minting these tokens for voting, and then issuing them to people, ideally through, well, it would have to be through the private messenger, which I'll demonstrate next, because what you're giving people is a spending key. And if anyone's familiar with Zcash, or basically any other private transfer token, even like Tornado Cash, any mixer, there's a spending key, and it's like your secret, and you should It's like an additional password. You should not reveal it to anyone, and it proves that you have the ability to spend this asset without revealing your identity. And to receive the spending key from the person who mints the token, you'd have to use a private messenger, and then you spend your token by voting in the election, and then you can forget it afterwards. You can lose it, and you probably should, because it just takes up more space and wouldn't be usable after the election anyway.
Yeah, so that's really interesting. So functionally it creates kind of this MKR back token specific to each vote. Yeah,
That's right.
so I'm right. Tell me if I'm right in saying so. Like the roadmap and kind of the future vision for your project is really to abstract all of this away, and to have it very cleanly, have a React type UI like this. In the future version of Democracy Ball, would the user actually have to engage in the chat, or would they all be able to just do it directly from a single interface?
Yeah, so chat is a misnomer because it's actually DApp coordination, and
Ah,
we are using chat right now, and that implies it's human readable, and you could have emojis and DMs and all sorts of things. But we really just need something to coordinate dApps. And if you were to look at what these bots and clients are sending, they just be JSON and many encrypted fields in the JSON as well. And you're right, you don't have to bother with another chat. Again, this is something that it'll use this dApp coordination on the back end, this private chat, without having you to be even aware of it. If you're a developer, you like to debug, or you like talking to bots. I mean, a cool feature could be a bot interface. Like, let's say you want to vote via Rocket Chat. Let's say in MakerDAO's community Rocket Chat, you want to vote in the governance polls. You could imagine a bot that would let you do that with the right integration.
that is really fascinating. That's super fascinating. We actually have a couple of people in the community that have gotten grants and have actually built out a couple of chatbots in MakerChat. And right now we're actually working on integrating some Web3 stuff into the discourse forum. So likewise, I can imagine, I can imagine voting can be integrated like that. Yeah, that's really cool. Wow, you're blowing my mind a little bit, Paul.
Oh, well, thank you. And I'm also really glad to hear about these other chatbot projects, because we have limited time and attention. We would like to do all these things, but we'd also like to collaborate with people already doing fantastic work out there. So I'll hit you up afterwards about the people working on bots, and maybe there's something we can do together.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to get you in touch with Scott. He's been the one kind of spearheading that whole one of the main bots that we've been working on.
Is this Scott Heron?
Yeah, it is.
I do know Scott. We've been in touch. He's very prolific. I'm a huge fan of Scott. He's been a big help, and occasionally
he's the man.
Yeah, we bump into each other online, and I've always been very impressed, and I'm glad to work with him. I've been looking for an opportunity to work with him more, and I'm glad this has presented itself. So.
Yeah, totally. That sounds like a really great idea for you guys to connect about. Yes. So yeah, I guess I just wanted to do a check-in. We're 34 minutes into the hour. I'm comfortable going maybe like another 5 to 10 minutes. So if anybody in the chat has additional questions, throw them out there. And Paul, I guess for like the next 5-10 minutes, I'd love to hear, pretty much anything you're interested in talking or expanding on with regards to this project, and also kind of the future vision of it. You talked a lot about the potential of it already, but anything you think would be interesting to a crowd that knows almost nothing about this. Mike's all yours.
No, I appreciate that, and I would say that it's not that they know almost nothing. Actually, as my intended audience, they know a lot about DAI and MakerDAO and voting and community. And so I guess I'm just trying to show how this might be useful to them, because I care about the community the most. If you build technology and it doesn't actually benefit a group of people who are working towards a goal together, then I sort of doubt what its usefulness is. But
totally.
What I would like to demonstrate briefly is the second part of the demo, which is the command line part. And this isn't hooked up to the UI yet, but this is the private messenger. So we tried using Ethereum Whisper, which some of you who have worked with Ethereum know that there was a private messaging protocol called Whisper. And unfortunately, we couldn't get it to work. And we tried for quite a bit. And I mentioned this to GD, I was complaining, and for better or for worse, my default mode of making progress is complaining to people, and then I guess hoping they'll do something about it. And GD did, like in overnight, probably in like 2 nights maximum, he wrote a private chat client, a distributed chat client that federates sort of out of the box, and 300 lines of code using just like raw network sockets and vanilla JavaScript, and that that energy is a super great part of this collaboration. And so I'll demonstrate that right now. It took us a few more days probably to add end-to-end encryption to this chat, but it routed messages. You could start at multiple peers and connect them to each other out of the box. So that was great. So what I'll show here is these 3 windows. So this is one client, and I apologize that it just looks like text on screen, but I'm a backend developer, so this this actually counts as a demo for me. And the server is this window in the upper right here, and then there's another client down here. And so these 2 clients are connected through 2 servers. There's another server that's running on an AWS instance in South Africa somewhere in Cape Town, and our local server here, we peer with it. And so if you're curious how it's spun up, this is a local server. It's listening on these ports. I will connect it with, it's going to federate with another chat server here. So now it's connected to our server in Cape Town.
So correct me, because I'm trying to wrap, being a non-technical person, I'm trying to wrap my head a little bit around the function of this backend infrastructure. So you said it's for coordinating between dApps. So it's kind of like generating a secret. Tell me if I'm saying this right, but it's like generating a secret and making sure both ends know about it, so that when a person votes, it's valid, right? Something like that.
Yeah, I would say that that's a good approximation. The only thing I would tweak about that is that you yourself as a user create the secrets, or whoever mints the tokens creates the secrets, and then they use the private messenger to send those secrets securely without anyone else eavesdropping. So you don't want to coordinate, through Signal or through definitely not Facebook Messenger or Slack to send the secrets that way, because then Facebook and Slack employees could spend your tokens if they wanted to.
We know Ethereum is a dark forest. Facebook even more so, right?
yeah, exactly. But yeah, what you've described is pretty much it. It's basically the second column here that lets users know about each other and then exchange secrets. And yeah, everything else you said was correct.
Got it.
Okay, so this client is connected here, and there are 2 servers peering with each other. And what I'm going to do now, so the last part of the demo, is to send a private message. So each client has a public key, and that's how you address them. That's how you sort of know you encrypt messages just for that public key. And so what I'm going to do is send a private message to the first client, and it's going to say, like secret vote for Vitalik. And so in the browser of the first user, you get a message here, and the message is in plain text, secret vote for Vitalik. And then here on the server, you said pushing message, and you have this long string of hex. And so the server has no idea what the message contains, what the vote means. It's a long string of hex, which is exactly what your spending key for Aztec would also look like. And this would be an encrypted version of even that. So the server has no idea what's going on. Even if the server keeps logs, it would take them some time to decrypt any of them, and the election would be long over by then. So that's encrypted chat, and we hope to streamline that even more. But as it is, again, that this is probably like 500 lines now. It started as 300 lines of code done in overnight in very few days, and great part of working with GD. So.
Yeah, so it sounds like you have some serious rock stars on the team, man.
For sure. And if anyone out there is interested in working with us, we always welcome contributors. My friend Meredith expressed interest, and so we pair program a lot. We just screen share and sort of like actively learn and admit
Sweet.
our ignorance to each other and make goofy jokes. So if anyone's interested, we have a Gitter channel, and yeah, just reach out anytime. Check out our GitHub. So I'll end by just showing this is what our teammates look like. Probably like slightly younger versions of ourselves, but I work on the backend and algorithms. This is Joseph in the middle. He is our front-end React superstar, and then GD on the right implemented dark chat in very short time, and we're still evolving that together.
Very cool. Very cool.
And the main feature improvement is we would like to move this on to XDAI, because Aztec, as optimized as it is, still takes about 200K gas per transaction. And as you know, with current gas prices, with miners spamming, that would never be feasible. People don't want to spend dollars and dollars voting, but on XDAI, each transaction is fractions of a cent. And this is something MakerDAO and Aztec have been talking about this for a while. And so I really hope XDAI and things like it succeed. It's a great side chain, and combines the best of both like trusted permission networks and permissionless blockchains. So that's us. Here's some links to try, and I'll post a link to these slides. And yeah, thanks for letting me speak. I wasn't expecting to go this long.
Yeah, no, I mean, my mentality is always, if it's an interesting guest and I'm happy to run the clock longer than planned. But I do have one more question from Akiva for you. So Akiva asks if there's any work that you and the team are doing to obfuscate the time of transactions, and then he cites in this recent proposal called the dark fix, where Maker Governance tries to address patching like bugs and issues in the code through governance, but kind of hiding it so that people don't have enough time to reverse engineer it. We're using something called a fire drill mechanism. I don't know if you know much about that. I'm happy to, Akiva, if you want to hop on the mic and have a brief conversation about it. But yeah, I guess the main question is there any work that you are doing to obfuscate time of transactions?
No, and that's a great question. And Akiva, if you want to, let's say, submit fake transactions as fire drills, I see. So they're decoys in time as opposed to maybe like decoys in value, which is what that is a really cool technique. And I have thought very little about obfuscating time because in Whisper they talked originally about darkness, which is meta-transaction privacy, so not knowing who the sender and receiver is and not knowing what the content of the message is. But they don't deal with time obfuscation either. And that would be a really cool research problem to think about how you would do it if decoys are the only way. Thank you, Dark Forum, the Dark Fix Forum post. I definitely will take a look at that as well. And yeah, I'll just admit that I haven't thought about this area. And I guess the time of the fix would be important because, well, actually, I'm not really sure what people would be able to tell from. You could coordinate, who's voting. Well, yeah, I would need to think a lot more. I think I would love to talk to someone who has done some thinking about this. I don't know what the implications are of knowing the time metadata.
Right. Yeah. There's just so many rabbit holes to go down with privacy stuff. It constantly blows my mind. I wish I had like 10 times more time to just read.
Absolutely.
But, yeah. Right on. Well, Paul, thank you so much for coming on. This was nothing short of like absolute pleasure, and I'm really glad that you and your team have been killing it and continuing to work on the project. And yeah, I'll post the presentation slide link to the event page description, so it'll live there in perpetuity. So if anybody wants to kind of like find it like weeks from now, or if you're watching the recording on the YouTube, you'll be able to find it in the event page description. And I also may add it to the Maker Relay for next week.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you.
Sweet. All right.
Well, I'll stop the screen share.
All right. That works. And then I think I'm going to start my screen share in just a second. And for the next part of the call, we have about 15 minutes to the top of the hour. I'm going to go through the latest Maker Relay. And so, without further ado, I'll share my screen here. Should be able to see this. So if you don't know, there's a little green button down here that I update every week. Feel free to click on it. It'll bring you here. And actually, I'm gonna move my camera so I could kind of see myself. Yeah, so uh, yeah, we post the team posts every Monday evening, Eastern Standard Time. But here's the latest episode, and we are 10 weeks into this publication, and so it's really great. It kind of follows the order of the old agenda. If you've been following these community calls for a while, where it focuses on the most important thing first, which is governance. And so I'm going to go through kind of for the next 15 minutes uh, everything in Maker Relay. So feel free to hop off if you've already read it. But if you haven't, feel free also to ask questions or to add things that might have been missed. And likewise, the team is looking for feedback. So if you go to the very bottom of this Maker Relay, I believe there is a link to the post in the forum, which is here, and also a very brief survey that feedback would be greatly appreciated. We are always trying to improve and sharpen this thing. So let's get into the votes. The weekly governance cycle votes. There has been one executive vote. There are no current live executive votes. The next live executive vote will be coming up on Friday, and I believe it's in relation to a stability fee change. And so yeah, the activating liquidations 1.2 and multiple other changes vote was passed on August 30th with around 100,000 MKR, which actually in recent memory is a really great turnout. And so I'm happy to see this number up here again, but I'm afraid that this week it might be lower due to gas costs. But either way, in like kind fashion, 4 hours after it passed, it went through the governance security module delay and it was executed. And now we have improved liquidation system and several other changes. There are some live governance polls right now. And just a note, some polls do use instant runoff voting, so you can select multiple options, and ranked choices will basically be prioritized. So yeah, there's a couple of polls. One is to adjust the WBTC debt ceiling. So every time we've adjusted it upward, it's really a small group of users. We suspect institutional users who are using this facility, and I believe right now the debt ceiling is 80 million, and I believe it's at almost complete utilization. We could check really quickly. But yeah, dive from WBTC. Yeah, it's set at 80 million, and it's like right up there at like 99% utilization. So I believe the vote is to raise it by another 20 million to 100 million, and so this is just kind of standard practice. If you feel that we are too exposed to WBTCA and you don't agree with the debt ceiling raise, definitely join the discussion and voice your reasons for why. Likewise, there is a weekly base rate adjustment. The poll goes out every Monday, and as part of this weekly governance cycle. And likewise, right now I believe the parameter is like -6. Possibly might have moved to -4. But regardless, yeah, vote on the base rate adjustment. And actually, a quick note on this base rate adjustment. In the forum, Primoz Cordes, who is a member of the risk team, actually posted a really interesting thread here that might influence the way that MKR voters view and are approaching the stability fee. So I highly suggest you take a read before you vote on this week's base rate vote. it might give you some additional context to make a better decision. So definitely read that, worth reading. So just some MIPS updates. So Charles actually posts a MIPS update also on Monday evening. So if you want just that update specifically, you could always find it on the forums. And so, yeah. So there are two. Oh, let me orient myself for a second. All right, cool. Yeah, you know what? Maybe I could just read from the MIPS update. Might be a little bit easier. So I believe these two polls are actually live right now, or these are in the RFC phase. Is that what's happening? I'm not 100% sure what this is, but that will be my feedback for next week's governance relay. I'll go through the weekly MIPS updates as Charles posted it. So last week's activity, which is the week that just passed, there was a monthly MIPS executive vote. This vote only lasts for 4 days, and last month was pretty soft, so it only contained two sub-proposals. One was Akiva's sub-proposal for a vault holder advocacy group, and a declaration of intent is basically MKR voters signaling that they are willing to kind of support this initiative. And then the second sub-proposal was this sub-proposal for core personnel offboarding. This is basically to offboard Richard Brown as one of the governance facilitators. He has actually taken a leave away from the foundation. Actually, he left the foundation and is taking a break from all governance responsibilities at Maker. So I think he's still poking his head around the community, but yeah. So unfortunately, Rich has to come back to work. Just kidding, he doesn't. But yeah, this is going to be changed. The process is going to be not requiring a vote for people to leave their roles. But regardless, I suspect that this month's MIPS executive vote didn't garner a lot of support or activity because it didn't include too much and because of high gas prices, etc. But I believe that authors are able to resubmit these MIPS for future governance cycles. So yeah, it didn't pass, and I believe this is actually the first time that the MIPS executive vote did not pass. So first for everything. On Thursday, during the episode 107 of the Governance and Risk Call, Long for Wisdom, who's the governance facilitator, performed a governance cycle review, and he kind of summarized what happened this cycle, and yeah, as I said, it was a pretty light cycle. There was a lot of conversation and kind of stuff happening in preparation for future MIPS and future sub proposals that are going to be part of future governance cycles. So this week's activity, we're actually currently in a gap week. I think I'm sharing my whole screen so you guys could see this. Yeah, you can. You can see this calendar. So this week is kind of being written off. The week one of this new governance cycle is going to start here on September 7th. So people are able to submit their MIPS and sub-proposals up until, I believe, the 11th or even the 10th. I believe the 10th because of the governance and risk call, but yeah. Actually, it should say the formal submission period is September 7th to September 9th. So that means, yeah. So basically, Wednesday is the last day to formally submit your MIP or sub-proposal into the governance cycle, because on Thursday, Long for Wisdom does a submissions review. So he kind of covers what is being submitted. I think there's also opportunity for submitters to present on what's being submitted, and then it goes to an inclusion poll. So yeah, September's governance cycle officially begins on September 7th. This is the formal submission period. On Thursday, yeah, submission review, covered that. See, I'm getting better at knowing what's happening without reading this MIPS update. But this MIPS update is incredibly helpful. So just some quick notes on collateral onboarding. The PAX USD and USDT weekly cycle collateral onboarding governance polls passed last week, meaning that the executive vote to officially onboard them will go live on Friday, September 4th. So the executive vote that's happening this coming Friday. I'm not sure if a stability fee change is bundled in there, but at least we will be seeing some collateral onboarding right at the start of this month, which is pretty exciting. A couple of new stablecoins to diversify that portion of the underlying collateral portfolio. The signal request gauging the community sentiment around the LRC, aka Loopring, resubmission ended, and it concluded that LRC will be resubmitted into the September governance cycle. So LRC is going through a monthly cycle. These two things went through a weekly cycle because they are, I guess, a little bit higher priority. And so yeah, this month we're gonna get a chance to resubmit and get LRC as a accepted collateral in the Maker platform protocol. So many words. All right. Next month's planned collateral types are Comp, Link, Pax Gold, and LRC resubmission. So yeah, August's collateral onboarding community greenlight polls ended today, and the results can be viewed in the collateral status index. If you don't know about this thread, it is kept up by Long for Wisdom and a few others, and it keeps a really tightly uh, organized kind of table of all of the submissions, so you can see the entries, and then likewise, when there are assessments posted by the various domain teams, they are linked to here. Uh, and you could see what's being planned. So we mentioned that LRC is planned. We have all the links to the domain team work here, and I believe, I guess the domain work has been submitted for the link here. But yeah, I'll let you guys kind of get into it yourselves. But this is a really great resource. I highly suggest you bookmark it and refer to it when you're interested in what's happening with collateral onboarding. So yeah, the Oracle's activity, there was an executive vote last week to whitelist the Yearn Finance um, app on the ETHUSD Oracle. This was basically to help make a better YETH vault, so as to reduce risk. It kind of there, yeah, I don't really know how to summarize this. I guess, yeah, read through the episode 107 governance and risk call summary because Nick Kunkel actually covers the reasoning why this was really important and kind of a low controversy thing to do. Like, it kind of makes sense to do this. It would be kind of mean if we didn't. But not mean, but like it's just good for end users that we did this. It gives them a way better and more trustless way to read the Maker oracles. And then yeah, Maker protocol activity. Yeah, that passed as well. So MIPS updates. So these are all of the MIPS that have not been passed yet, but are in the request for comment stage. The request for comment stage typically lasts around 3 months for a given MIP or subproposal. And so, yeah, I guess I'll really quickly read through each of these. So the MIP 20 is submitted by Livnev. It's the target price adjustment module. It is it's kind of a derivative of the old target rate feedback mechanism idea. It respects DAI's pegged to the dollar a little bit more in theory, and I highly suggest you read through it if you're interested. The MIP15 dark spell mechanism is continuing to be improved and worked on. This is basically a process to address critical bugs and vulnerabilities that are found in the protocol without needing to initiate an emergency shutdown. So this basically would obfuscate the solution to the bug so that people can't reverse engineer it in that 4 hour or X amount of time delay in the governance execution. So right now that delay is 4 hours. Um, I think we launched with a 24-hour delay, or actually with no delay, and then it became, yeah, so that delay might change, is my point. MIP14, protocol DAI transfer, is a really simple process for voters to be able to transfer X amount of DAI to a given Ethereum address. This is a really foundational piece of the puzzle to MakerDAO as a DAO, as it will let governance actually pay for its own overhead in various ways. Of course, this also, I believe, failed in one of the governance cycles and then was put into a request for comment stage that is lasting for a few months now, and yeah, the idea is continuing to be improved. MIP17 is about weekly actual debt ceiling adjustments. So this new version of this proposal is still a work in progress. The idea is basically, instead of us ad hoc adjusting debt ceilings, this MIP proposes kind of a more standardized logic for when we do those. So we don't have to waste the cognitive energy trying to figure it out every time a debt ceiling is being approached. The last three are sub-proposals. Two of them are declarations of intent. So this is just getting MKR voters to really signal that they're willing to do this. So one of them is for a DAI Flashmint module, and this is really interesting. This would allow Maker basically to become a flash loan provider for DAI liquidity, becoming a direct competitor of Aave's in the flash loan market. Really great idea. The next one is the declaration of intent for a strategic reserve fund. And this basically kind of ties into the idea of the protocol DAI transfer. It gives Maker governance a fund with which they can use for various business initiatives. I believe that there was some talk about using it also for monetary policy initiatives, but yeah, there's kind of uh, not a huge amount of consensus around this idea. There's definitely still a lot of conversation to be had, but the general idea of a strategic reserves fund sounds about right, and is also part of this greater conversation of how MakerDAO will eventually keep and manage a treasury, right? The next thing is the domain work requirements for LRC. So this is the proposal that was rejected from this last month's governance cycle, but is eligible for resubmission. It basically has all of the domain work requirements for a given collateral onboarding, and yeah, is just kind of the complete single submission for collateral onboarding of LRC. And you could get links to the three assessments here from Risk, Smart Contracts, and Oracles. All right, let me close some tabs here. All right, cool. So I believe that's MIPS. Yeah, so the community greenlight polls ran for the last week of August. These are the results. So the community greenlighted BUSD, did not greenlight Chi gas token. They greenlighted Gemini USD. They greenlighted pretty much everything except for the Chi gas token, which is surprising to me. But interesting nevertheless. And just a quick note on greenlight polls: they give the domain teams signal for what to prioritize. So, for example, if they will look at the results month to month of these greenlight polls and kind of put it in their decision-making matrix, so to speak, for which collateral to prioritize next. And so it looks like the community is very positive on a lot of things, which is great. So monthly governance cycle. Yeah, I don't know if that header fits there, but either way. So some quick stuff from the domain teams. Cyrus is leaving the foundation. So yeah, we're gonna miss him. Quite. Oh no, I just realized we're actually 5 minutes over the hour. All right, really quickly, I'm just gonna look over and see if there's anything worth actually talking about. in these last minutes since we're running late. Yeah, Wi-Fi submitted a MIP6 collateral onboarding application. There was a V2 for the vault compensation that was presented, I believe, a couple of weeks ago on the governance call, and also there is a really great forum thread. Monet Supply has been a total rock star in spearheading that. Yeah, I think we can pretty much end there. Oh yeah, one more thing I really want to mention. There is actually a Friday brunch that has been really killing it. Maria has been hosting it along with a few other people. I highly suggest you guys join these. These are super casual. If you're a beginner trying to kind of wrap your head around all of the stuff that we're talking about, this is a really great kind of meeting place for that. So definitely check out Friday Brunch. And likewise, at the very bottom of Maker Relay, there's just a ton of information about other meetings, other community events, hackathons that are going on, and then just some links how you can connect with Maker itself. And so with that, I am gonna go ahead and stop sharing my screen and say goodbye. So happy Tuesday. Sorry that we ran a little bit late. That's what happens when you're having fun and not paying attention to the time. Uh, yeah, with that, have a great Tuesday, everybody, and I will be posting this on YouTube.